The Baroque movement, a sense of grandeur and majestic beauty, often portrayed through rich colors and noble, richly filled backgrounds. These senses of grandeur were often depicted by using aristocrats as models and just portraying their lavish lifestyle. And that is where Johan Vermeer differs from his peer. Johan Vermeer van Delft, known today just as Vermeer, was a Dutch Baroque painter who achieved moderate success during his lifetime. But after his death, he was renowned for his masterly use and treatment of light in his paintings and is now considered one of the most popular genre painters. The grandeur of his art was depicted in sober and bare simple ways, by showcasing ephemeral everyday life actions of middle class and lower class folks. The dynamism, the emotional tension and exuberances from the compositions and their colors is what brought to the simple pieces so much complexity. It is true that when hearing the name Vermeer, what first comes to mind is the lady with the pearl earrings, which was a very famous and breathtaking piece from the Baroque era. However, so many other pieces from this artist represent a very beautiful part of the Baroque, as well as a simpler way of life, like the painting of the milkmaid. Vermeer was well known for his portraits featuring scenes of everyday life, and the milkmaid was definitely one of the most emotion-filled and enigmatic of his pieces. So much can be felt when looking at this rather simple picture of a milkmaid making milk-based products. The background is far from the richness and luxuriousness of a noble family. It is bare, and yet it still has a sort of charm to it. The foreground depicts a lady of modest birth, performing a task of everyday life. The simplicity of Vermeer's painting style and the fact that it is still represented a sense of grandeur and emotional beauty makes it a very valuable piece from the era to this day. The Milkmaid by Vermeer, mainly known as La Laitière in French, is also a famous brand in France that most French people grew up with, which makes all sorts of milk-based products, such as chocolate mousses, yogurt, cakes, etc. And of course, the mascot of this brand was Vermeer's milkmaid. When the brand first launched in 1973, it was not at all associated to Vermeer's piece, but was already called La Laitière. The concept behind this produce was that all the yogurts and such would be contained in glass pots, just like the traditional milk-based products were in the 1600s, which was revolutionary since all yogurt pots at that time were made in cardboard. It gave their products a sense of higher quality, and they were a lot tastier in their glass pots than in the cardboard ones. It is only in 1975 that it was decided to use the milkmaid as a sort of logo for the brand. Really, Vermeer's piece owes some of its fame to the brand that used it as a base. This idea of transforming a famous artist's art into a consumable produce beneficiaries both the brand and the artwork that can sometimes not be as well known as it should, and gets more recognition with the help of that brand. Today, I would like to walk you through another of Vermeer's beautifully crafted work while I transform it into a packaging of a fictive brand similar to La Laitière, as I thought it would be a fun process to go through and explore. The piece chosen for this experiment is called The Glass of Wine. Like most of Vermeer's paintings, The Glass of Wine is a scene portrayed in a sober setting, a rather domestic interior upholstered with use of cold gray on the walls, and the bright colors of the furniture and geometrically crafted stained glass sets the mood for the two characters in the foreground. The atmosphere is rather friendly and serene. The man standing next to the seated young woman seems to be ready to give her a second serving of wine when she is done with the first glass. The elegant and calm young lady has her glass pressed against her lips, drinking the rest of the wine down. She is refined and precise in the way she holds her glass. She follows to the perfection the etiquette of the time, which asked to hold the glass at the foot, which is an indication of her being a part of the upper middle class. It can be guessed that these two are a couple by looking at some of the symbols painted throughout the piece. The first symbol being that the woman's dress is made from a lavish red fabric with gold brocade. These types of dresses were only worn on special occasions, which in this case could be the wedding day of the couple, for example. The second symbol are the sheets of music and the instrument on the chair next to the men. Music was often used for serenading someone and courtship, for wealthier member of society. Lastly, the drawing of a feminine figure with bridle on the stained glass, which is a motif that can be identified as the personification of temperancia, meaning moderation in English, represents in this context the conception of wine as well as the dangers of the two characters having their emotions taking over the actions. All these objects in the piece give an overall feeling of observing a couple celebrating something important rather than strangers interacting with one another. Let's now talk about transforming this beautiful piece into products. Like said earlier, one of the prominent main focus of the painting is the wine/drinking. So my idea was to transform this piece to fit it into a wine brand that I would call jeune fille, which means young girl and makes allusion to the main character in the red dress. I did a refined sketch on Procreate to have an idea of how the physical product would look like. I used the color palette of the painting to make the bottle colors and the package. Once the sketch was done, I decided to make my product to look more professional. A nice package makes the product look more fancy and refined, which entices people's curiosity and facilitates sales. I did so by taking a blank mock-up as a base, transformed it to my sketched image, and voila! A nice fancy wine package.